The sources what we had already seen now is they are that is web, e-commerce, social network, bank transactions, sensor technology, mobile computing. So, and according to me, the manufacturing sector is the most important area nowadays we have to concentrate with. So here the sensor technology, so it is not only data processing, it is also a technical data which depends on the quantity of the quality of sensors or the devices available day by day. So it can happen, and in so nowadays you have temperature or noise sensors, temperature sensors or heat sensors, anything can have so heat or temperature are same, or sound sensors, anything can come on to it, and they can, or friction sensors. So anything can be utilized, and how to place them. So it not only requires data generation, it also requires some technology adaptation. So whenever they think a particular device, they should not be thinking about only doing the job. They should also think about placing sensors in a potentially useful place and then getting data out of it. So a manufacturer should not nowadays should not be made to think to do a particular job. So you make up a machine and it does the job. It is not the days nowadays. The things are getting different. So it has to do the work, and it should also generate data. So that kind of the design itself, in the area of design itself, the big data demands. So if the machine provides me the data, I can give you proper analysis. So that kind of the manufacturing model itself changes nowadays. So manufacturing sector or logistics sectors, so where the data is, where the potential package goes, so whether how much days it will take, what is the status of it now, tracking them. So these are all the huge amount of data which is going on, and this is where you have to analyze, and you can import new kind of informations or generate data. So manufacturing, these are the potential areas where big data can be applied. So now we will get into the basics are over. So now we will get into where what are all the challenges of big data analysis. So whenever we say the challenges, so what is the challenge? Okay sir, I would like to have big data and I will be working on it. So very initial challenge I would like to say is whenever the data is generated and passed on to it, the security issue comes first. So the quantity of data you have to store, you have to protect it. How to protect it once you get the data? Before that, the security issues comes in two areas. One is huge amount of data is gathered, and it has to be stored in different locations, and it has to be retrievable very easily. It has to be safely stored. So that is one kind of security issue which comes in. So the other one is when the data is given to the analytical people, the security of the data or the quantity of the data or the whether this will be leaked to other company, whether those data will be available in the whole network, so others can copy it. So these kind of security issues, whether to reveal it or not. So that is another kind of problem comes to the big data analytics. Sir, you go to a military area, sir, the huge amount of data is coming, we are ready to do big data analytics. So the military people may not have that skill. So a big data analytical person should have some features, or he is having some specialized skills. Even though he has the skills, the security issues, he has to get the data, then only he can apply the skills. So if he is not getting the data, he will not be in a position to analyze it. So why he is not getting the data is because the security issues of providing the data to a particular person becomes very difficult. So the security comes in the storage, not only in storage and retrieving, but also in the secrecy of the data makes the big data analysis little bit difficult. These are the challenges we have to come through. So whether big data analysis person should be appointed to the person, whether you can outsource a big data analytical person. So now there are two models. One is ownership model and other one is outsourcing model. When you own a big data analytical person, you whether the analysis is going to be a perennial job, whether he is going to consistently work on it. So if he is not going to consistently work on the particular area, so then he will be doing the job, he will be doing a service, the business will get the benefits, and they will be using it whenever again it is necessary. They will be calling an analytical person. You can outsource them, such kind of areas. In some areas, if the security issue is more, you appoint that person, you put him some restrictions on him, on his usage or anything, and you utilize his skills. So these are how your business big data analytical model is going to be, is a very important aspect or a complication which you have to think when you are providing a particular model or big data model to a business person. So you provide a model, then they have to give the acceptance, then you do analytics. So you every time you have to think big data analytics should be thought in such a manner that you are giving a proposal, somebody who is a business owner, he has to give the acceptance. So if otherwise you can talk whatever you think and then you can say this can be done, that can be done, but the data will not be available with you, the data will be available with the business person. So he has to accept and go for this model. So this complication should be understood by a big data analytical person. So then the variety of data, as I have told you earlier, the variety of data, you have different types of data, you have unformatted data, how to extract data out of it. So then what are all the keywords you have to search for. So nowadays what happens is even for politics they use big data analysis, how the people respond, what kind of interest they have, how to put your ideas into them. So you have to analyze a particular person and then give the advertising or the pursual of the business to them in a particular fashion. So this kind of analysis is a very complicated technical skill a particular person or an analyst should have. So these are all the things which you have to keep in mind. The next thing is going to be the challenges what a big data can possess. So because it's a new thing, the complete environment is changing, the old type is changing, we get different types of data, so everything is going to be complicated. You have to break through these challenges or modification in technologies, everything you have to adopt, and these things should be known to an analyst. So the big data analyst should have some features. So if he doesn't have these following features what we are going to talk about, so then you are not going to be a successful person in the area of big data analytics. So he should have analytical skills. First and foremost, analytical. What is analytical skills, sir? Can you teach us analytical skills right away? So no, it is not, because it is dependent on the environment on which you are working. So you should be probing, you should be always think in out of the box thinking should be there. So then if this thing happens, how the things can proceed. So an imaginative, innovative thinking should be there. So all these things are, so you have to be predicting. So if something goes on in a, sir, every day I am selling a fan for thousands fans are running. So if you go on doing it for 100 days, immediately after 100 days, there will be a fall in that is sales. So you cannot assume that these 100 fans will be sold continuously. So someday there is going to be a saturation point. So you should be having that kind of analysis. Sir, today 100, tomorrow what you have to produce? Produce 100. So it is not a consumer product. A fan or any other product which is not a consumer product. So what is the difference between consumer product and one is a consumer uses it. So for example, food production. So you can say a person consumes it, you have to reproduce. But a fan is given, it has some sustenance period. So a fan will work for 2 years or 5 years. So then if a person buys it, for the 5 years his need is satisfied. So he is not going to get the need immediately. So you have to predict what is going to, what you have predicted, what is the availability of the stock in the market. So you have to analyze things with the available data, you have to predict things for the future. So this kind of analytical skill a particular person should have. So the first and foremost feature a big data analytics person should have is going to be analytical skill. So the next is going to be communication skill. So whatever he analyzes, he should be putting forward in a proper fashion so that a business person, so he cannot complicate with the data. So this amount there, that amount there, if you put on numerous numbers and then tell them, it is going to be very difficult for the person to understand. Whatever you have in mind, you can understand a number, you can understand a flow of numbers, you cannot explain the same thing with only numbers to them. So here we will be talking about, in the future classes we are going to study about visual data analysis. So our visual presentations of the data, how to understand a physical data, how to explain a graphical data, these things are very important things which is available in big data, which we are going to discuss in the later classes. So the communication skill is how to communicate. You understand something, you put or you just contemplate a thing in a particular fashion and then produce those kind of data which is in an understandable format to the other person. And you should be, communication is not only one directional. Whatever they say about their problem, you have to understand their problem and then give a solution to them. So the communication skill is very, very important there. And critical thinking, so analytical is something different, critical thinking is more specialized. So if at all something for emergency, how you have to, so you have to think about if something happens immediately. So nobody would have predicted corona now, so you would have prepared something or you should be ready to do. So nowadays you would think that but that is a big manufacturing companies have shifted their manufacturing towards sanitizers or anything. So this is a how you can switch over this energy to our production capacity to another area. So these are all critical thinking methods what we follow. So down, attention to details. So now not only just to take up a particular area and decide. So you have to analyze in detail, you have to give variety of data. So when you go for details, the details not only about the business, your competitors' data is required, their profit margin, what they put, what is the area in which they are doing it, how our product is different from their product. So attention to details is very, very important. And apart from everything, so that is preparing a mathematical skill is very, very essential. Whatever problem you theoretically say, you should be in a position to define it mathematically. So then you should make the machine to, because everything cannot be so I think like, so you cannot predict something. You have to have mathematical model, your proper mathematical model should be applied to it and the solution should be analyzed and you should check whether. So you cannot do it with, sir, I think this way. So that is, we will say that hunch, there was a hunch for me, there was an intuition to me, if I do this I will get a benefit. So intuitions help, but always they are not going to help in this case of big data analytics. So you should have a mathematical skill, you should have a support to your imagination. You may have imaginations, so the mathematical proof for those imaginations are very, very essential, or predictions are very, very essential. They should be, your prediction has to be scientific. Initially the prediction comes intuitively, but in later stage you have to mathematically support it and then produce such kind of results to the person so that you do the analysis for a longer amount of period. So you just make a person invest, and then if that big data analytics fails, so then the whole big data analytics or the perception about big data analysis, there have been very many technologies which are very good, have become wasted. So this kind of mathematical skill which is essential, so you have to be very equipped to do big data analysis. So a person can, so it is not a team, so you can, in other words, sir, can an analytics